Hi, friends. So, this is a hard episode. And half of me is like, maybe I shouldn't even say this out loud. Like, isn't this going to completely explode my business and make everyone abandon me? Isn't that what's going to happen? Well, I guess let's find out. So, welcome to the Sabrina Scott podcast, where I talk all about how to claim your magic and change your life. And a big part of claiming your magic, at least as I understand it, is to really root in authenticity and to root within truth, at least our own individual truth, right? Like, my experience is not going to be the same as everybody's. Yours is going to be different from mine. And I kind of love that. Like, I think that's amazing. And I do think there's room for all of us. I think it's okay that we all have different experiences. And I think authenticity and claiming our magic, and of course by magic, I do mean that both literally and figuratively. We have to be honest with ourselves about who we are, what our experience is, and all of that. And so today I want to talk about something very tough. It's very personal. It's kind of an impulsive decision to even say any of this. I don't expect many of you to listen to this, but it's coming from a very raw and honest place. And so whatever, here we go. I've been working on saying the things that are scary to say, and this is definitely one of them, right? What I'm going to say in this episode. And this is about the temptation to give up and the importance of energy exchange and staving off the giving up. Because faith, and I tell this to my students too, faith really only matters when it's tested. It's easy to have faith when everything is going well. We might not even care about faith when everything is going well because there's nothing to worry about. But when things are not going exactly how we want them to, or when things are going less than ideal, it can be hard to have faith. It can be easy to fall into this trap of thinking, why the fuck am I even doing this? And to be honest with you, that is something I've had to ask myself over the past little while. And one of the things I'm thinking about a lot lately, and I think you can probably notice this in some of the things that I'm beginning to offer. The membership, which is coming up soon, which I'm really excited about, but also Substack, which I impulsively launched on Friday night. These subscription-based models. And what I've been thinking about a lot is the importance of energy exchange and the importance of honoring the people that we value, whoever they are, whether that's a creator like me, or whether that is a lover, a friend, a family member. Just taking that time to tell someone that you appreciate them. That, I think, is just like how to live a good life. You know, there is something really lovely about operating in this mutually beneficial way, a way that honors what each party has to give, a way that honors the presence of each person in that exchange. Whether it is, again, an exchange between lovers, between friends, or between someone who's running a business and offering content and all of that. Because when there is no energy exchange, and it doesn't have to be, and it often isn't, an exchange of the exact same things, right? The ways that we give to each other, whether that's in business or in friendship or in romance, it often does take different shapes. And I personally think that's great. But it can become really interesting when we are in a position where we feel like we're giving, and giving some more and giving some more, and not feeling appreciated. And not feeling like the current energy exchange is in alignment. And I'm feeling a little bit emotional as I'm saying this, actually, because this is something that I have felt a little bit lately with this business that I have. And I'm really horrified to say that out loud. I'm like, oh my God, I'm shooting myself in the foot here. But I do really want to try and walk my talk, even though I've got like tears in my eyes as I'm saying this. Because it's scary to say this shit, right? Like, as a leader in the space, I do feel like there's some things I can't share. Like, there's some things that have to be hidden. Like, I have to always seem to have everything together. And to be honest, I do generally, like, my personal life is fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. But with my business lately, I have actually felt like there is a misalignment as a whole in terms of what I am giving and what I'm getting. And of course, my business mind is like, okay, so clearly there's some changes that need to happen. And I don't want to say that like my business is failing. It isn't. Like, my business is completely fine. I'm supporting myself. Like, it's all good. But I do think that the amount of output that I'm giving just isn't being fully reciprocated in the extent that I would like it to be. And it sounds really scary to even admit that. Like, sometimes I do feel taken for granted. Sometimes I do feel discouraged because I have people leaving hate messages and calling me lazy and calling me this and calling me that. You know, I've had nasty reviews on this podcast criticizing my accent, criticizing my voice, calling the way that I present information on this podcast lazy. I've had reviews on my journal, one of my journals actually, calling me greedy. And while I don't actually believe any of that at my core, on my bad days, which I don't have very many bad days, but, you know, we all have our moods sometimes. Sometimes that stuff does hurt my feelings. And it just makes me feel unseen and unappreciated for everything I'm trying to do and everything I'm trying to give. And everything that I do is motivated by my desire to help people and to express my ideas and my art and help guide people to see things differently and to learn spiritual and magical skills that will help them improve their lives. That really is what motivates every moment of my life, is being of service to humanity. It sounds very cheesy, but it's true. And so it feels depressing, honestly, sometimes, to feel like I keep doing my best, but the support is just like not where I want it to be. And sometimes I do feel like giving up. And am I going to? Like, no, I'm not, because this is all I really know how to do. But it does feel sad sometimes. I just want to name that. I want to show that vulnerability as a business owner, that no, I'm not this like impenetrable brick wall who has no emotions. I actually do have a lot of emotions. Most of the time I feel very emotionally even. Like, I feel very chill, I would say 95% of the time. But there is that small percentage where it's like, well, fuck, what the hell am I doing this for? In a world where everyone wants everything for free, where everyone feels entitled to know everything about everybody, when everyone feels entitled to everyone's story, everyone's vulnerability, everyone's content, time, energy for free, it's a little bit discouraging. And on my bad moments, like, it makes me want to cry and curl up and just delete my entire internet presence. To delete Instagram, to delete everything, and to never be heard from again. And I don't mean like anything dire. I just more mean like move off the grid and like completely do something different and just disappear as an online public person and like change my name or something. And obviously I'm never actually going to do that. Like, that sounds actually quite difficult to pull off logistically. And I don't know, like, I just love creation and expressing myself so much. So I don't really see that is viable as a future path. I don't actually want to do that, but sometimes there is that desire to just blow everything up. And I think part of it comes from this current culture of entitlement and a lack of reciprocity that we currently have on the internet. It's so weird because I don't feel like it ever used to be this way online. You know, like, I do feel like there used to be a lot more appreciation and grace and all of that between creators, between people. A lot of us were a lot more comfortable sharing our process because everyone else was sharing their process too. And everyone was okay with that and not being perfect and collaborating with each other. And it was okay to not be perfect. And that's actually what the internet was all about back in the day, was to reveal our process to each other in a way that we all felt a little bit less alone. And that gave many of us, I believe, the strength to keep going in those hard times. But today, I almost feel like nobody really encourages each other anymore. Almost nobody. And I do want to just like say there are a bunch of people who I'm so grateful for. Everyone who's ever bought anything of mine, no matter how long ago it was, whether it was a book or a journal or a course or a coaching session or a tarot reading or anything. Anyone who subscribes to my shit, anyone who is a follower, anyone who watches my YouTube, I appreciate all of you. And there's a few people in particular who really have been champions of my work, and honestly, it touches me and it moves my heart so much. Like, it just makes me want to cry in like a positive way. And I'm so fucking grateful for that because it's so rare. It's so rare because these days, no one wants to shout each other out. Everyone wants to like consume everyone else's content for free, plagiarize it, and then present themselves as the genius who came up with that idea. And we're in this culture of just not fucking talking about our intellectual lineages. You know, I've had students, thank God this was barely anybody, but one in particular, you know, unfollowed me after taking one of my courses, one of my mega courses, and basically plagiarized my entire course under her name. And it's fucked. You know, this person blocked me so I couldn't see anything, but like, I have my ways of finding things out. And it's just very depressing. It feels really shitty. I recently had someone in one of my courses owe me a few grand and then just decide to ghost me because, you know, I'm not posting dead fucking blown up baby heads all over my Instagram about Palestine. And so this disposability culture, you know, that I no longer deserve to have that payment for what I delivered because I'm not like a crazy activist anymore, is wild. You know, and I'm sure I said or did something that pissed whoever off to copy my course and just think that that was ethically fine and justifiable because of whatever reason. We have this disposability culture, this dehumanization culture, this entitlement culture right now, which really does a lot of creators very dirty. And I just wish that more people understood the amount of money and time and heart and energy and persistence and grit that it takes to be a person with a business on the internet. It's actually very fucking difficult. And that's not something I talk about very often, but it's true. And sometimes I get discouraged. It's true. Sometimes I want to give up. I'm not going to, which is why I'm talking about it. I think if I was going to give up, I actually would just delete everything. And like no one would know why. It just would snap my fingers and it would just happen. But I know that's not my path. And I guess I'm sharing this for a few reasons. One of the reasons is you'll see some opportunities to engage in that reciprocity, that mutualism that I'm talking about. I am launching a membership. I've got a new Substack. And what I'm really interested in these days is reciprocity and mutual exchange. The ways that we show appreciation for each other. Whether that is a testimonial, whether that is a nice comment, whether that is sharing a post, whether that is subscribing to something, whether that is signing up for a course. It's something that is important to me. And I'm also thinking about how can I show that reciprocity that I so value to other people as well. Like, who do I need to reach out to and tell them that I appreciate their work? There's probably a few people who I owe messages to. And in a world where it's so easy to spread negativity and criticism, and unfortunately, it seems like the internet has become a place rampant with that, I do want to be that space where people can be positive and support each other. And it horrifies me, but I'm also asking, point blank right now, for you to support me too. If you have found my work in any way useful or valuable, like, prove it. Like, show me. And many of y'all have, and for that, like, you have my deep bows and deep gratitude. But I think there's a lot of people who, like, their lives have been changed by my work, and yet there's no way for me to know that. Like, that email has not been sent to my inbox, that, e-transfer has not been sent to my bank account, that subscription has not happened. And it breaks my heart a little bit. It just makes me feel very unseen, and when I do get those nice emails, those nice comments, those nice testimonials, whenever I get a tip after a tarot reading, whenever I get a tarot reading booked, whenever someone signs up for a course or a workshop or a masterclass, it actually helps me feel seen for what the fuck it is I'm doing. And that is actually kind of an important thing. And it takes a lot of stamina emotionally to be a public creator. Like, everyone has an opinion. Everyone has some snarky thing to say. And while generally it just bounces off me, like, there are moments where I do sit and question, okay, what am I doing right now? What can I do differently? How do I feel right now? And how would I like to feel instead? And so a big part of me leaning into that and owning how do I want to feel about my work, about my presence on the internet, about my offerings to the planet and a community and a people, is to do the scary, hard thing of asking for it, of asking for that reciprocity in the form of subscription, of membership, of all that stuff. And it almost feels like difficult for me to even say that. I think there is probably some worthiness things that somewhere deep inside I'm probably still working through. To really be able to value myself, my contributions, and the spaces that I create, to really own the fact that this is worth a lot. And so this is the way that trauma shows up in work, right? Because especially for business owners, right? We can feel like overgiving, like we need to overgive. Like that's the only way that we're going to be seen. Or, whatever, is to overgive and overgive and overgive. But unfortunately, what happens when we overgive, and I think my feeling around this is like that kind of warning bell, like, oh, maybe I have been overgiving with all the free content lately, is like that feeling that something is not quite in alignment. Something is not quite right. Something needs to change. And so I'm taking that really tough, for me anyway, step of launching some of these things. And of course, the whole reason I'm launching these things is because I believe in the value of these offerings to you, to whoever is listening to this, to whoever feels called to jump into my spaces of community, mentorship, knowledge sharing, writing, coaching, all of that. Obviously, there's a lot in it for you, and I'll be doing another episode or 2 or 3 probably about all of that. But just to stay on topic today, I wanted to just wallow in this vulnerability for a moment, because I think a lot of people probably see me as someone who has it all together, and I think that is true. And my emotions, again, are pretty fine almost all the time. But I also want to humanize myself a little bit and remind everyone that I'm a person who is doing their best. And I have emotions too. I am a business, that is true, but at the end of the day, I'm also a person. And my business is an extension of me. And obviously the point of business is not to meet my emotional needs. That's a bit, not the point. The point for me is to serve others. But in that service, I do believe that there is a sacredness in mutual exchange. And so I'm moving to incorporate that more into my offerings moving forward, as that is the only way that my spirit and my soul will be encouraged and sustained and held space for in order to do this work for all of you. And I just think it's important. A lot of people just don't think about this stuff, and maybe you're running a business and maybe you're going through this right now. Maybe you were running a business and you went through this and you hit the wall and you did blow everything up and just give up. I get it. I totally get it. And for everyone who has done that, I don't judge you at all. I don't blame you. It's tough. It's tough. And I will say that running a business has been one of the most spiritually and psychologically transformative things I've ever done. It really forces you to challenge your limits and to grow in so many different ways. I almost can't describe all the ways. And so in being vulnerable with you guys on this podcast, I hope that anyone who does feel like giving up right now, or who has felt like giving up recently, that you feel a little bit less alone, and that this experience is very universal at all levels of business and life. And even for people who have chill mental vibes, which I would describe myself as having chill mental vibes. Even I sometimes am like, what the fuck am I doing? And then I'll have moments interspersed throughout that same exact hour where I'm like, I'm a genius. I'm so excited to launch this new thing. And so I do think it is so important, just as some practical, advice, I guess, take breaks, work on different kinds of things. Today I've been working on the membership. I've also been working on drawings for my PhD. I also wrote an essay for my Substack. Now I'm making this podcast episode. And I'm feeling really energized by my PhD right now. I'm feeling really excited to work on this graphic novel. It feels really doable. Like, I just feel so electrified by it. I'm excited by the Substack. I'm not dreading making this podcast episode because it was kind of an impulsive decision to record this, but I think I've been dreading complaining about being a business owner. I think I've been worried that you guys would judge me or think I'm less authoritative or trustworthy or whatever for sharing that sometimes it's sad. And sometimes it feels stressful. And sometimes I'm worried. And sometimes I feel like no one likes me. And sometimes I do feel that way. And I just want to share that. And no one is immune to it. And I think part of the project of life is to feel whatever the fuck it is. And to keep going anyway. And to find those pockets of inspiration. Despite the feelings of discouragement and hopelessness. Like, we are in a crazy recession right now. It's crazy. Pretty much everywhere is crazy. Everyone I talk to from every country in the world has told me some craziness. And so with all the stuff going on in the world right now, it is so easy to fall into despair and hopelessness. And I've known a lot of people who've got laid off from their jobs over the past few months. And I just know how tough it fucking is right now for everybody. And so I just wanted to share, like, sometimes I feel that too. Sometimes I also feel like, what the hell? But every day I try to access that part of me that wants to keep going and keep pushing. And every day I move into that self-belief and try to connect with that thing or that project or that process or that media, whether it's reading a book or listening to a podcast, that is going to remind me of my own power. And sometimes that's also through prayer and witchcraft and spirituality and going on a walk through the forest and finding inspiration and connection with spirit guides. And sometimes it's through a tarot reading reminding me, like, keep the fuck going, don't give up. I think these feelings are normal, and I think we can also decide how we want to deal with them. And I'm not a big fan of complaining. And so with this feeling like not as appreciated as I always like to feel, part of my action step on changing that for myself is to create these ways for people to invest and to show me that. And this is the invisible part of doing business. Most business owners will never talk about this shit publicly because they don't want to tarnish their brand and, like, admit to sadness or insecurity or worry or disappointment. But it's important to me just to be authentic with you guys on my process with all of this. And also to explain why I'm launching some membership stuff. Like, part of it is that, and then part of it is genuinely believing in what the offering is, right? Something sustainable, something fun, something that will build momentum rather than just having a bunch of one-off courses every now and then. So more on that later. So thank you for listening. If you've decided to listen to this whole very long episode, it's very personal, it's very emotional for me to share this because I think there has been some part of me that has felt like this is one of those things that I can't say in public because people will unfollow, people will disappear, people will not be interested. And a leader who is not perfect or performing a particular version of perfection. And I am not perfect. Obviously, I find the concept of perfection very uninteresting. And it just goes without saying, of course, no one's perfect. Like, obviously, everyone knows that. But I think in business, and when you're in a position like I am of being a teacher, a mentor, a leader, it can feel like you're shooting yourself in the foot when you share any kind of vulnerability. And I think I shared a lot of vulnerability when I was in my early 20s, when I was a broke artist, still supporting myself on being an artist. But now I feel like I have more to lose than I ever have. And so that makes this vulnerability even more horrifying in a way. But I don't know. I think it's important to say that stuff that we're kind of scared to say. And here I am always telling everyone to be vulnerable and say the real thing. And so I'm trying to like put my own ideas into practice here, even if I'm like a little bit worried you guys are all going to judge me for saying all of this. There it is. So I hope you guys have gotten something out of this, whether it is around me modeling vulnerability amidst a scary share, whether it is feeling less alone if you've been feeling like giving up, whether it is feeling unappreciated for your work as an artist or creator. I hear you. I totally hear you. And sometimes I relate, you know. So I just want to give you guys all a big internet hug wherever you are listening to this from. And yeah, I just think honesty and vulnerability can be really powerful. And I know that on my journey to being more vulnerable and honest with myself and also out in public, it really helped me to see other people saying the scary things and talking about failures or insecurities or fears. And so that's what I'm trying to do here today. Okay, everyone, that's it for now. How's that for a vulnerable episode? So I'll catch you guys on the flip side. My website is sabrinamscott.com. My new Substack is sabrina.substack.com. There's 2 posts. One is paid, one is free. But the paid one has a little free preview type of thing. Of course, you can say hello on Instagram, Sabrina M. Scott. My YouTube is Sabrina Scott. And if you want to buy a cute hoodie or something, you can check out shopsabrinamscott.com. And I'll chat with you guys later. Take care. Bye.